Is there any way you'd like to get on the trucks to have a sort of aerodynamic foil for the front?
Yeah, sure. Again, it's about costs. You can build something beautiful and you can make a great foil out there. People don't always want to spend that extra cost.
Exactly.
You're developing something which is not off the shelf. It gets expensive to build. So, and they don't use it all the time. So it's a balance. How much money do you spend on the extra fuel as opposed to spending a lot of money on building something? If you're going to travel for a year, different story. And if it's for a year and you're going to travel with a family, you may not want to take 4 people and all the camping gear in one car. You might consider how you actually carry all that extra gear. And for some people it's a trailer, for some people it's an off-road caravan if you've got children.
And the pop-up 4x4 trailers?
There's some fantastic trailers that really work well for families. It's not something I'm a great fan of trailers, because if you're going to be very remote in difficult conditions, it's challenging with a trailer. But certainly if you've got a family and you're going to go traveling for long periods of time, it just gives you a really good base to set up. You can set up a base, you can go from that base, and children, it's nice to give a bit of routine.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people who are traveling with kids, they're sometimes doing homeschooling on the road. So now you set up a base for a week at a time, you've got that set up. You can get into the vehicle, you can travel out, you can explore, so you can actually break your day up very nicely. So that works. You just got to be careful about what trailer you buy.
Do you have any experience with Patriot campers?
Look, it's one of the brands I do, and it's a beautiful, there are some phenomenal brands. Australia builds some beautiful campers. Camper trailers, and South Africa's got a great market in what they build here as well. So there's no shortage of different types of trailers and campers you can use. My advice is, if you're going to go buy and use a camper, try and rent one first. Rent one and go and see what it's like using something like that. Once you've rented it, understand the setup and takedown process and what that entails. Because when you understand that process, you're going to be very clear on how long it takes to set up, and then your expectations can be managed. There's nothing worse than going and spending a lot of money on a very expensive camper trailer, and you find each time you stop it's an hour to set up, and that's not what your expectation is. So manage your expectations by getting experience, not the salesman who's going to put it up and down in next to no time. Take your own experience. Even if you can't rent the one you're buying, rent something similar and get a feel for what it's like to do that. And then you can set the car up appropriately. So the car I'm sitting on now, that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, this vehicle's set up, it's going to tow a trailer, it's like a pod, and they're going to live in that.
Is that a push button flop out?
No, it's a complete
the little pod
that you can move in and live out of. So it's nothing pop up. The roof pops up a bit. So they can sleep in it, they can live in it, and that's what they're towing. So the vehicle is really about having a fridge in, a set of drawers, and some basic equipment. So if they leave the home, the pod or the trailer or the camper behind, they've got what they need in the vehicle. They've got recovery gear, tools, spares, first aid kit, all sits in the car.
And that changes everything, knowing that you're going to be towing.
Towing is again another. You need to actually become well experienced in towing. You've got to maintain the wheel bearings on your trailer. More often than not, I see trailers by the side of the road where people haven't maintained the wheel bearings, the shock absorbers are tight, or the tires have been sitting on that trailer. People haven't put them on axle stands. The tires have been sitting for months, sometimes years. They pull them out, dust them off, hook them up, and off they go. And then they wonder why a tire bursts or the wheel bearing collapses, because they just weren't checked.
Would you have the same size tire on the trailer as on the truck?
You want the same size tire and you want the same axle width, because that way driving through sand, swapping tires out makes it much easier.
And you get you can take more fuel.
You can. I think you've got
but
to
you're
be
going to use more fuel
careful.
as well.
When you're balancing the weight out between the vehicle and the camper or the trailer, you've got to make sure that you don't end up with a situation where the nose weight of that trailer is massive. You've got to balance that trailer out to get it to tow nicely. And I think that's really important. And you've got to make sure that the one you choose, you've got the power on your vehicle to tow
Yeah.
it, and you've actually got the safety all in place. Now, most of the modern trailers are very safe in the couplers and the braking system and all that. But again, people don't maintain the brakes on trailers, so that becomes a problem. So you need to know, there's nothing worse than going behind someone and the trailer lights don't work.
Yeah.
And that's because someone damaged the plug and they haven't got spares and they don't know how to wire the trailer up and they haven't tested it before they left. And so again, it's about take that responsibility, because towing a trailer is as dangerous as anything else if it's not properly set up. The weight isn't right, the bearings aren't right, the lights aren't right. It's a risk to everyone, yourselves and people around you.
If you plan to go trailer, do you need to make that decision early, because that's going to affect what goes inside the truck?
Well, you're really looking at how you're going to structure your truck differently. The weight, the suspension on your truck might be different depending on the nose weight of the trailer. And certainly you don't want to make this truck heavy, you want to keep this nice and light. So you're just making sure that the truck you're driving is able to sustain you if you don't have the pod. It doesn't help to have your jack in the pod and you've left the trailer in camp. So, again, that's very important. And I've seen it work really well with camper trailers. I used to tow a trailer around Botswana when we were doing some of the game work. Getting stuck with a trailer in the sand is not fun.
You're more likely to get stuck.
You are more likely
often
to get stuck, and I think you've got to be very clear about how you're going to recover yourself. So it doesn't help to drive a trailer if you're not good at driving in the sand, because you're increasing your risks of getting stuck. And more often than not, you see the car's buried up to its axles. The trailer's silly because the wheels don't spin on a trailer, and of course the car's buried. Now you're really stuck. You're trying to get out. And that's why, I say take one max track. And I use the max tracks. I think it's.
Would you take 6 and have two max tracks with the trailer as well?
Yeah, exactly. So you're taking, there's a lot of different.
Which is exactly what's on this truck, because he's tired.
Yeah, these are the jumpers he's standing on. They've got great grip. There's a lot of different products I've used over the years, from the rubber mats to the aluminium plates to you name it. There's a lot of copies of these tracks. It's not that they don't work; they all work. It's how effective they are and how much you want to spend.
Yeah.
So I've used shade cloth under wheels before where I've got stuck. You can use a lot of
Even some wood sometimes can work.
Yeah, sadly that's the problem. People put branches and wood down on the
Yeah.
sand tracks, and then of course those get left behind. You don't stop to take
Punctures.
those out,
Yeah.
and you come along rolling along. And quite often in Botswana, when you're driving along in the sand tracks, you clearly see up front it's very churned up sand.
Yeah.
And then if you look more carefully when you're coming there, you'll see there's a lot of sticks and debris.
Yeah.
And that's when you've got to worry, because there's the chances of one going through your side wheel are really high.
So the bottom line is, it doesn't sound like you're recommending first-time overlanders to tow.
I wouldn't say don't.
If they plan to
recommend.
have a proper adventure.
I would say if you're going to go and tow a trailer, get used to your vehicle first.
Yeah.
Go and do some trips with your vehicle. Get
Exactly.
familiar with driving the four-wheel drive in different conditions. Then add a trailer and go and, as I said, rent one first, get familiar with it.
Yeah.
Grow your experience so that you grow your confidence at the
Yeah.
same time. It doesn't help when you're growing your experience and you can't grow your confidence, because it can take away your confidence. You tow a trailer, you have a bad experience,
Yeah.
and you come back and you've lost that unique opportunity to
Yeah.
go, well, maybe that was an option I should have taken. Or maybe we should have something we can all live in.
That's where the minibus comes in. Is anybody building a minibus that is strong enough for proper overlanding?
Look, there are, absolutely.
At an affordable price?
I think affordable is all realistic to what you're going to spend. What I'm seeing a trend of is more and more people are wanting to, I wouldn't say sell up, but they're certainly wanting to downsize to give themselves the scope to live out of something which is land-based, and then live out of something they can travel. And four-wheel drive is a good option. But they want to live inside it, not out and around. Now, most of the vehicles in Africa that we build for Africa and Australia, you don't need to live in them, but it is nice to live in them as well. You get some bad rain, you get some hectic windstorms, so it's quite nice to be able to climb in the back of the vehicle, out of all that. And for a lot more people now that I'm finding who've had to experience COVID, and the way we worked going forward is different, and it's going to be different for the rest
Yeah.
of time. It's not going to go back to massive big offices. People are going to work.
You just have to look. I drove. Normally, it would take me an hour to get you. I get you in half an hour in the middle of morning traffic.
Yeah. So you can see how people are absorbing the mindset that it is possible, and it has to be possible. So working from your vehicle, and while you're traveling, why not? Technology is there. You know, most places have very good connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity. You can get all kinds of really good, improved boosters, connections that you can get. Most countries are putting in really good connectivity because it's a thing of the future. It's the demand. So even remote rural places in Africa, you're going to find good Wi-Fi. So where I'm going with this is that I've seen a lot more people change their mindset to think about how they could live and work from a vehicle. And now you're looking at something maybe needs to be a bit more spacious. Something that actually is a little bit more luxurious, a little bit more comfortable, and it's going to give you that scope to live and work out of your vehicle. How cool.
And the whole van life movement is also, more people have been exposed to that kind of thing as well.
The van life movement is phenomenal, and there's some amazing builds in van life. There really are. I think for me it would be a van with four-wheel drive capability, because I think you still want to go, for most people, to the remote places.